Trade wars and tariffs have become a weapon of choice in modern economic warfare, reshaping global economies and redefining international relations. But what does this mean for the world at large? Let's dive into the mechanics, the fallout, and the key player involved in this high-stake economic battlefield. Economic warfare has become a defining feature of 21st century geopolitics, with trade wars and tariffs at its core. While the term trade war evokes image of hostile negotiations, its real-world impact is far-reaching, influencing businesses, governments, and consumers worldwide. The U.S. China Trade War officially began in 2018, with the Trump administration imposing sweeping tariffs on Chinese goods, citing unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. Over time, tariffs were applied to over 550 billion of Chinese imports by the U.S. China retaliated with tariffs on 185 billion worth of U.S. goods. These measures disrupted the long-standing tariffs reduction since the 1990s. The U.S. export to China fell by 26.3%, especially in industries like agriculture and energy. And China's export to the U.S. declined by 8.5%, though China compensated by diversifying its trade relationships. The effects of these tariffs went beyond immediate economic pain. The trade war sparked a wave of protectionism globally, with countries re-evaluating their trade dependencies. For example, the U.S. placed additional tariffs on goods from allied countries, including steel and aluminum from Canada and the EU, straining relations. China, in response, slashed tariffs for its other trading partners, boosting trade with the EU and ASEAN nations. By 2022, China's trade with ASEAN nations exceeded its trade with the European Union for the first time, signaling a shift in global trade flows. The economic cost of U.S.-China trade war has been staggering. A 2022 study found out that U.S. consumers bore 92% of tariff costs, leading to higher prices on everyday goods like electronics and clothing. Global GDP took a hit, with estimated $1.4 trillion in lost economic output by 2024 due to disrupted supply chain and reduced investments. These tariffs did not just hurt US and Chinese businesses. They rippled across global supply chains, raising costs for manufacturers and increasing inflation pressures worldwide. Beyond economics, the U.S.-China trade war has deeper strategic implications. It reflects a broader struggle for technological and economic supremacy, particularly in critical sectors like semiconductors and artificial intelligence. The U.S.'s use of tariffs, export controls, and sanctions highlights its intent to counter China's growing influence on the global stage. This isn't just about trade. It's a battle for future of global economic dominance. In this economic chess game, some nations and industries found themselves as unexpected winners, while others faced severe setbacks. For example, Vietnam, India, and Mexico benefited from the relocation of supply chains. Vietnam in particular saw its electronics and textile sectors boom as manufacturers shifted operations from China. The U.S. agriculture sector took a major hit when China imposed tariffs on soybeans, causing U.S. exports to China to plummet by 26.3%. Meanwhile, Brazil stepped in, becoming a top soybean supplier to China. By the way, did you know, despite the trade war, China's overall exports hit an all-time high in 2022? You know the reason behind this? Well, it's trade diversification. One of the fiercest battlefields for economic warfare is technology. The US imposed strict export controls on semiconductors and other high-tech products to curb China's technological advancements. In response, China accelerated its efforts for self-reliance, investing heavily in its semiconductor industry. The US passed the CHIPS Act in 2022, allocating $52 billion to boost domestic semiconductor manufacturing. This move was not just economic, but strategic, aiming to reduce dependency on East Asian manufacturers like Taiwan and South Korea. The fallout from this trade war extended far beyond US and China. According to a 2024 study, global trade increased by 3% as bystander nations like France and Thailand stepped up to fill the gaps left by US and China. But the benefits weren't universal. Countries heavily reliant on U.S. China trade, such as South Africa, faced decline in both exports and economic stability. One of the most notable outcomes of these trade wars is that the rise of regional trade blocs. In Asia, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, signed in 2020, has strengthened trade ties among ASEAN nations, China, Japan, and others. Meanwhile, the European Union is leveraging its single market to mitigate external shocks. By the way, RCEP covers nearly 30% of global GDP and aims to reduce trade barriers across 15 nations. While some countries have thrived, the broader costs of economic warfare are undeniable. Tariffs increased costs of businesses, which were passed on to consumers. During the pandemic, these effects were magnified by supply chain disruption. The global trend towards protectionism is undermining the efficiency of global trade, leading to higher production costs and slower economic growth. In Europe, automakers relying on Chinese parts faced delays and rising costs due to US exports control, highlighting the interconnectedness of modern supply chain. As we look ahead, economic warfare is expected to intensify. Countries are increasingly intertwining economic policies with national security strategies. For example, China's dual circulation strategy, which aims to boost domestic consumption while maintaining export growth, and US decoupling from China, which focuses on reducing dependencies in critical sectors like rare earths and semiconductors. The future will likely see a bifurcation of global economy, with nations aligning based on geopolitical loyalties rather than pure economic logic. Economic warfare isn't just about nations. It affects businesses, consumers, and livelihood worldwide. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for navigating the complexities of our globalized world. So, what's your take on trade wars? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on global economics.